I fear not the dark itself, but what may lurk within it. Welcome to Lurk, bringing you creepy, strange, and bone-chilling stories, with your hosts, Tim Harrison and Jamie Jackson.
Hey Lurkers, it's Jamie, and I think this is episode 18. I think so, because the last one I just did was 17. So episode 18, and again, we have a guest host with us today.
Hello, it's Angelina.
Yes, and today we're going to talk a little bit about shadow people. And by shadow people, I want to give a couple examples first. So you're watching TV, and you suddenly catch something out of the corner of your eye, a form and movement. You turn your head to look, and you catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure that darts quickly around a corner or through a wall. Shadow person.
Shadow person.
Or you wake up in the middle of the night and you see a figure that's darker than night staring at you and you're gripped completely with fear. Those are just a couple examples of the phenomena known as shadow people. Both of those I have actually experienced myself, and Angelina has experiences.
Yep.
The two I described are actually straight from my actual experiences. Basically, a description about shadow people. They are supernatural humanoid forms. I think I took that directly from Wikipedia, which isn't the most reliable.
What do you mean? Wikipedia is always right. And unbiased,
Yeah,
too.
I know. Totally unbiased. But that is trying to come up with a definition for something that encompasses so many different things. They're not just one thing.
Exactly.
So it's not like I can say shadow people are ghosts. That's a true fact, but they're not just ghosts. They're not only ghosts.
And here's another one for you, too. I just got this from the Encyclopedia of Ghosts and Spirits by Rosemary Ellen Guiley. She says, just in the very first part of her description, that they are dark figures associated with nighttime visitations and some haunted places. Shadow people appear as solid black figures who are darker than darkness. Most appear to be male. Some wear coats and hats. And she goes on to how tall they are and all of that. But I don't know. There are so many instances of tall, short, big blobs, nondescript, humanoid. I mean, they run the gamut.
Yes.
But that's just another little short definition of what they may be.
So they're humanoid, but not always,
right.
Which I've got further down here too, just like in Rosemary Ellen Guiley's book. Excellent books, by the way. They're usually encyclopedias of things. Ghosts and spirits. I think I have witches and witchcraft. Mm-hmm. She has one on the jinn, which are genies, basically, to just make an easy definition.
Yeah. Like
Angelina had said in that description, they're described as being darker than dark, which seems kind of silly, but that is the definition. In a dark room, you can see them. They're black, but they are so black that you still see them in a room with no light.
Yeah, and they're usually pretty solid. I mean,
yes.
If they weren't, they wouldn't seem that black.
Right. They block out other things behind them. Yeah, like if they're definitely standing in front of something.
A window.
Yes, they're blocking that out.
Yeah, even if it's just moonlight coming through.
Yes. A lot of them have quick, jerky movements and the ability to disappear through walls, around corners, and sometimes into mirrors. I hate mirrors, by the way. They creep me out. They really creep me out.
Psychomantium.
I just
build our own psychomantium.
I know. I just have a problem with mirrors. I have had an experience with some mirror stuff, and I just have a problem with them.
Yeah.
Some shadow figures have red eyes, though many don't have any facial features at all. You're going to find some have this, but some don't. I mean, that's why I said it's a very large genre.
It's kind of like the Jersey Devil.
It's kind of like the Jersey Devil, yeah. 50 million ways that we can describe this. They have no discernible details or features, making them unrecognizable. So it's not like you can say, oh, that's Kevin from the other night. They all look the same.
Right.
They're all the same.
And if they do have features, they're probably a ghost.
Yes. Yes, exactly. An easy way to describe it, they look like the silhouette of a person and are typically gender neutral. They don't have any specific gender traits. Most people, though, consider them male, whether that's just because you can't. Yeah, I mean, like, you can't see hair on them. You know, like a haircut. You can't tell a haircut, but because it's just the shape of a head, you think male because most females would have long hair or something.
Yeah.
And I think that's why. I don't, thinking about the ones that I've seen, I don't really know that they gave me the feeling of male. You know what I mean? It's just an assumption because of how they looked, I guess.
Yeah.
So usually they're considered male. They can be hooded. They can be cloaked. They can wear a hat, which we're going to talk about, which is a little bit more specific. We were going to lump that into a separate episode, but I think it needs to be included here. I'll tell you about it later. But they can wear hats. They can be solid. They can be wispy or smoky. So they can show up lots of different ways. Some are only seen from the waist up. Others have visible legs. They are intensely dark and so dark that they can be seen in a dark room in the middle of the night. So again, that's like, I know that's kind of, I'm being repetitive, but that's a huge point.
Yeah.
It's one of the descriptions that people constantly bring up because your room is dark at night.
Right.
And yet you still see them.
Yes.
If you see them in the dark in your room.
If you see them in the dark. And that's something too, just talking about, because we were saying that they appear solid. And so at night, I should have said that at night they appear solid and they're darker than darkness, because they do, they are seen during the day. And I have a story about that later. But in that case, I don't know about everybody else's, but the story that I'm aware of, that shadow was not blacker than black. It was definitely more of a lighter variety, I guess. Not as, it was a shadow, but more of like a daytime shadow that you see when you're out in the sun.
See, two of mine were in the day, but they were blacker than black.
Okay.
They were broad daylight.
Okay.
And they were, or in the evening, but not nighttime, not while I was in bed. Two of the instances.
Okay. And this is the beauty of it, because they do manifest differently. And you don't know, who knows? Is it because of the type of energy emanating from it? Is it, who knows? We'll get into all of that, but yeah.
There are some people who have had experiences and they think that they are benevolent and that what they're seeing are actually a type of guardian that's watching over them and guiding them. And I'm not saying that that isn't true. It's just different for different people. Yeah. Other people think that they're pure evil and intend some sort of harm. I think that's probably the most common with the majority. I would say with the majority of these, it's evil. It's not a, let's go make daisy chains in the yard sort of sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think when most people talk about shadow people, that is kind of the character they're talking about, because oftentimes people that see things that that don't have that feeling might term them as ghosts or hauntings as opposed to necessarily shadow people.
Right.
So, yeah.
While most of these beings appear humanoid, some appear as a ball or a blanket with no real specific shape. And they are the most reported type of ghost sighting. Some of them are ghosts, which is touching upon a little bit of what I'm getting ready to talk about.
Yeah. And some of them can be energetic substances even, because I'm thinking of some specific hauntings where the shadow figure was more of a blob,
right,
moving, and down a corridor or something like that. So, it makes you think of whatever residual energy may have been in that place, like in a sanitarium or something like that.
You just made me think of another instance of a shadow person thing that I've dealt with.
See, I'm a helper.
Yeah, I know. I just totally was like, wait a minute, that just reminded me of.
The only thing I don't have are my reading glasses. So
that's okay. So just like there's many different kinds of shadow people, there's many different theories behind what they are. I don't think there's any one right theory here. I think that all of these theories are actually happening. Not in each instance, but some of them are one type of thing, some of them are another type of thing. So I'm not keyholing them all into one.
And they're encountered in so many different ways. I mean, I was telling Jamie, there's a great book called Adventures of Beyond the Body by William Bullman, and he talks a lot about, I don't know that he necessarily calls them shadow people, but, for those who are familiar with out of body experiences will know what I'm talking about. But a lot of times people report seeing these shadow type figures in their journeys when they astral project or have out-of-body experiences. So it's not just in a waking state. They're seen in so many different instances in so many different ways.
Yeah, we're basically keyholing a very large phenomena with a lot of different explanations under one heading of shadow people.
Exactly. And it's all throughout the world cultures all
yes.
over the world.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't specific to like, one religion or one, it's not just in America or just Western cultures or anything like that. They're everywhere.
Yes,
They're
they are.
throughout the world.
They are. As far as theories go, we're going to talk about the theories first, and then we're going to get into personal stories. We have a few. We got just a few. A few more than most people should have.
Yeah.
A few too many. The first one and most obvious one is that they are ghosts. They're different than your typical ghost. Many apparitions have some type of discernible detail, clothing, hairstyle, facial features, etc. Color. You can kind of, even if it's a wispy form, sometimes, like when I talked about the apparition I saw at the house, I knew that the bottom was like a bluish or like a dark blue. The top was a light color. I could see the color of the of the hair.
Ethan and his Spider-Man.
Yes, the Spider-Man colors. He saw Spider-Man colors. So ghosts sometimes have actual colors. Sometimes they look like full flesh and blood people.
Yeah.
But these would be the shadow people that would be ghosts. They don't have anything like that. Sometimes they're wearing a cloak or a hood, or you can tell that they have some form of clothing. You can see a collar. I'm thinking of an instance. One of the stories that I'll mention is that I could see a collar. It's basically the silhouette of a person,
right?
And their clothing, but you can't see buttons or colors. It's just black.
It's just black.
So it's ghosts. Ghosts is one option. Demons, which everybody knows that
everything is a demon.
I hate that. That I hate television paranormal programs because it's so Hollywood and they've got to build up ratings. So
we need a demon and an exorcist.
Exactly. Let's make it as scary as possible.
Right.
It drives me up the wall, but I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm going to knock wood because I'm superstitious. I'm not saying
but I think we'd be having real problems if they existed on the scale that Hollywood would like us to believe.
If they existed as much as they exist on television paranormal shows, we would be up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. Yes. We would be in serious trouble if that were the case.
Yes, big doo-doo.
Because if you just did the statistics on that, it would be really bad.
Right.
Really bad.
Yes.
Many people who have these encounters with shadow beings actually have this feeling of pure evil. And so because of that, because of the feeling of evil, it leads them to think that it's some sort of demonic presence, a demon, whatever. I don't really know the ins and outs of demonology because I don't want to. I just don't want to go there.
And I mean, that also comes from a belief standpoint. So for one person, that may really be what it is for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that is a demonic presence for them. And maybe it's something else for someone else.
Right.
It's subjective. And I think that it would be a mistake for anybody to discount anyone else's experience of what it is. They're only going to come from their frame of reference.
Right. Yeah, I totally believe that there can be demons and possessions.
Sure.
I totally believe that. I just don't believe that it happens the way television is trying to tell you that it happens.
Yeah.
Mental illness is a real thing.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying, which I've already gone on this tangent a million times before in other episodes. You can go back and listen to it if you really want to hear me, but demons are a possibility. Time travelers is another option.
Which is kind of fun.
It was super fun.
Super fun.
Yes. Basically, it's saying that they're actually They're actually people from the future.
Future.
I promise I have not been drinking. I have water and only water in my water bottle. So that this is just, they're saying that people are traveling from the future and this is just how they appear when they're time traveling. That's a possibility. I don't know how much I believe that, but hey, why not? Why not? I kind of feel like if you can time travel, you're probably going to look more like a person than a shadowy being.
But who knows?
Without. But who? I don't really know. I don't time travel.
Frequency,
I mean,
I don't know.
Back to the Future, they were pretty much identical to what they were when they left. So that's how I judge time travel.
Because that was 100% accurate.
Hey, it was totally legit. Marty McFly was, and the doc were totally spot on.
Absolutely.
I know. So the next one, Ange actually touched upon it, and I'm going to go into a little bit of definition. The other thing is that it's possibly astral bodies. And that's astral, but just to stress the ending on that word.
Yes.
And basically, to explain astral bodies, I need to explain astral projection, which Ange talked about. It's also known as astral travel. It's an intentional out-of-body experience. The soul, also referred to as the astral body, is capable of separating from the physical body and traveling. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines it as the ability of a person's spirit to travel to distant places.
Although it's not always...
You cannot always control it.
Right, you can't always control it.
Sometimes you have the ability and it's just super easy for you to just do it.
Yeah, and some people don't even know what's happening. It's a natural thing, and then sometimes when they realize what's happening, they scare themselves out of it, actually.
Exactly. So the astral body would basically be your soul being seen while it's traveling and having an out-of-body experience. So that is... And that may seem extremely far-fetched, but it really isn't.
Robert Monroe is kind of the father of out-of-body experience as far as, the written word. Journeys Out of the Body. I think that might have been his first book. I can't recall. But anyway, that'll give you another author to look into, Robert Monroe, and then William Buhlman. They're two, if you're interested in learning more. Yeah. Two authors that you can
I think astral projection probably needs to be added to the list of the episode list. Because it is kind of fascinating.
It is. It's totally fascinating. And it's a huge subject.
It really is. I know somebody who actually went somewhere to learn how to do it better. And it's somebody much older than I've not. Yeah. Now, when I say know somebody, it's actually somebody related to somebody I know very well.
Yes.
Both of these people, and I don't want to say who it is because people would know. People who know me would know who I was talking about, and I don't want to out them.
Right.
But this person went to learn how to traveled from Washington State to Virginia to learn how to do this, and does this on a regular basis, and is somebody much older than I am, old enough to be my parent. Yeah. The person that learned this, and it's a family member of his that I know intimately, who kind of was like, thought he was crazy, and of course he's telling me this. I'm like, oh, you're talking about astral projection. Yeah. And he just looked at me, and I'm like, it's totally 100% real. It happens. People do it. I believe it. I think it may have happened to me. Not not with my control, just that it happened. So anyway, long story short, astral projection, I think that's pretty...
There's a lot of study on it. There's been a lot of study on it. So it kind of fits into that realm of the known unknown.
Right. I think
like with lucid dreaming. I mean, that is a thing. I've had that happen to me. I haven't been able to do it on purpose. Well, but it's tricky. But when it happens, it's so cool. It's such a neat experience, So
I think astral bodies are up there on, they're above demons.
Up there with remote viewing.
They're like under ghosts.
Yeah.
Before demons and time travelers in the hierarchy of my brain. That's where I would put it in my belief scale of what I believe the most. Some people feel that what they're seeing are the souls of people who are having an out-of-body experience. Oh, wait, I just said that, you stupid dummy.
So, Jamie, could they be people who are having out-of-body experiences?
One more reason why I should read my notes.
We just ate dinner, and we're a little loopy right now. We were hangry.
Okay. Well, before we leave the astral thing, there is a gentleman, Jerry Gross, who is a teacher of astral travel, claims that everyone travels out of the body while they're asleep.
I've always wondered about that. That's an interesting theory.
I completely think that's possible. So next would be aliens, my favorite thing in the world. I mean, if there's any aliens listening, I don't dislike you. You just scared the crap out of me.
So far, I have not had any alien.
Well, that's good to know. Safe here.
Do know of someone who has seen that in maybe perhaps shadow form.
So abductees report that greys seem to be able to pass through walls and closed windows, and they appear and disappear quickly. And perhaps shadow people are actually these alien visitors. I hope not. I seriously hope not, but that's another common theory that a lot of people think. So the next one is interdimensional beings. So basically beings from another dimension.
Yes.
Mainstream science is convinced that there are other dimensions besides the 3 we currently live in. I want to just give you a big shout out because, we can't keep but mentioning the same place every single episode. Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
Where
Ranch.
they have seen portals open up, where the current theory from an astrophysicist who is super smart and currently getting another PhD, everyone's favorite, Dr. Travis, who I just love. He thinks it's possible that a wormhole would explain a lot of what's going on.
Yeah.
Which Einstein had that theory. That was part of his theory of relativity. I won't bore you with all the details because I don't really can't
if you are interested, Hunt for Skinwalker by Colin Kelleher and George Knapp is a must read.
Yes.
That's
in the show notes.
That's the basis for everything that we see today on TV. But that definitely check it out.
Yes, definitely is a good book, and I think it's in the show notes for the Skinwalker Ranch, either in part 1 or part 2. But you should listen to them both just in case you listen to them. They're good. So that interdimensional beings, and that's another one that's kind of high on my list. Bumps demons down further.
Yeah. Sorry, demons.
Yeah, I know. Now there's 2 other things where science is going to try to completely poo-poo the paranormal end of things here. And I'm going to disprove it. And I think you're going to disprove it. Is that scientists like to explain the shadow people phenomenon by saying that it's a result of sleep paralysis. And sleep paralysis is basically the loss of muscle control. And it happens just after you fall asleep or just as you wake up. The person has the feeling of being awake, but is unable to move or speak for a few seconds to a few minutes. And it is also known to cause hallucinations. This is also called the old hag syndrome.
Right.
A lot of times. It's a real thing, but I think it's like, I saw a ghost while I was walking down the street. Nope, it was sleep paralysis. Right. I think it's used too much to explain it away. It is possible that there are some people are having sleep paralysis, are having that hallucination, but it's not all of them.
Right.
It's possible that it's some, but it's not all of them. I know for a fact that it was daytime and I was walking around, so I was not asleep.
Right.
Nor had I been asleep.
You're hallucinating.
Had not had anything that would make me hallucinate. I do not inhale.
Have walked around after taking that ayahuasca.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding.
I did not have any marijuana. So the other thing I came across in kind of looking into the sleep paralysis was that it was an article in sciencemag.org, and there was a study done by a neurologist named Olaf Blanke of the Brain Mind Institute in Switzerland, and he had colleagues that were on there. It wasn't just him; he had other people, but they didn't list their names. Just Olaf.
He was a college of one.
Olaf Blanke and his colleagues were attempting to identify the source of epileptic seizures in a 23-year-old woman, and they were applying mild electrical stimulation to the brain, and then they stimulated the left temporoparietal junction, the TPJ, and it's located above the left ear. It's like an actual specific area. Temporal, your temple, so it's above your left ear. When they stimulated that area, the woman reported feeling the presence of a mystery person behind her, and she said that it was imitating her body position.
So they were able to create that in a lab, which is really cool, but it still doesn't mean that that's what people are experiencing.
No, because what it sounds like is that if it's imitating her body position, it's stimulating something in the brain where she's almost seeing herself.
Right. Well, and plus if they're artificially stimulating this, they have to be doing it by some means. So unless those means are present when the person is feeling that sensation or having that quote unquote hallucination on their own, well, then what else could be causing it? I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're walking around with probes on their head and
no.
And that's usually the way that they stimulate these places in the brain.
They have the hat that has all the probes in it.
I mean, it takes a long time to get all of that set up. So, I mean, that's great. It's great that we know that these things can be stimulated, through scientific means. But
How would that be done
How is
on
that
the everyday?
Right. So
I promise I have not tried to
what is the
stimulate my
stimulant
brain electronically.
on the outside of the science of the lab?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Are you walking around with the swim cap with all the little electrodes on it and a battery pack?
And I mean, and yes, maybe there's other stimulus there. Maybe it's, high electromagnetic fields.
That's true.
Maybe, that's definitely that. Not to say that it can't happen. It's just,
but that's proven
accounting
too.
for it all of the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's proven too. High EMF can make you hallucinate.
Sure.
So if there's a house that's complaining of haunting,
yep,
and I were to go in and measure the baseline EMF and it's off the charts, I'm immediately saying, my diagnosis because I'm a doctor. He's a ghost. I would basically say that if a house has high EMF levels for baseline levels, they would be told that it's most likely hallucination caused by the EMF and not an actual haunting. And it's not healthy to have high EMF levels. It's really bad for your health. It's not something that you want. So that's been proven, but even in this case, it's not going to stimulate just that little area. And the description is it's mimicking the body position of the person who's being stimulated. So that isn't anything like any of the experiences I had.
Right. Nor mine.
So now we're going to get into the fun stuff, which is the personal accounts of shadow people.
If it's fun.
It's fun. It's fun talking about. Other people think it's fun because it's not them. Unless you have something else with Rosemary's book. Is there
no, she just kind of goes into what you did about, the bedroom watchers,
Gotcha.
The shadows on walls, moving shadows, background visitors, and haunting presences. So she just she goes into her own categorizations of different types of shadow people. But honestly, there could be an endless
she has more descriptive categories within categories that I'm not. There's too many categories.
There's too many categories.
I don't have time for that.
But generally, I mean, most people often report them at night in their bedrooms when they're usually asleep alone. Not always, but that is a very common sighting. Another very common sighting is the shadow that is in the periphery of your vision. So out of the corner of your eye, you see something dark, you look, there's nothing there. Sometimes people look and then they see a peeking shadow. So there's the shadow that to me, that would kind of fall with shadows on the walls, moving shadows. They sort of overlap there. So
I don't think they do, because that's my experience.
Okay.
Are the ones out of the periphery.
Yeah. So this will be fun.
They're not shadows on the wall.
No,
I actually have
but
drawings.
There are some that people will see a movement and then they look and they'll see a shadow, not like peeking out from behind, from behind a doorway, or they'll see something and then it'll move back. Is it a trick of the light? Maybe.
I have drawings of what I saw. I have it on my phone to show you.
That's cool. I hope you're gonna upload those.
I am. I have them saved to my phone. I'm gonna upload them on social media too to share.
Okay, cool. I do not have drawings.
Well, I did a blog post a long time ago on a blog I used to do, so I knew I had those. I don't have the original sketches, but I had them scanned onto the computer.
Awesome.
So the first story I will tell is one that's definitely under the ghost category. Mm-hmm. It takes place on the Gettysburg battlefield, which I've spent many, many, many weekends. Yeah. Years ago, early 2000s, I guess, to 20 years ago, give or take.
Gosh.
There's a group of people. It's not just me. We used to go ghost hunting with a group of people who lived in the area. Basically, it was a lot of eating and some ghost hunting. It's like we would eat dinner before, we'd go ghost hunting, and then we would go and debrief at the Lincoln Diner down the road from the square in Gettysburg, near the college, and we would get ice cream. Some of us would get food and ice cream, and we'd eat tons of more stuff and just talk about everything that happened. Lots of fun.
Process.
I kind of miss it. It was a lot of fun.
We should do that again.
We should, especially the ice cream part.
Yes.
We're at Spangler Spring area, which Spangler Spring got mentioned in the episode with Ethan's stories that he saw things there. Spangler Spring has a lot of stuff that goes on there.
Yeah.
So we're in Spangler Spring, and we're actually, for people who are familiar with Spangler Spring, even if you're not, you can look at photos and I can try to give an idea. We had parked our cars, and if you're looking at the parking spaces, there's kind of a hill in front of you. There's the parking spaces, a short, maybe 1 foot high maybe 2 foot high stone wall.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a hill. And then to the right is what I call the tuning fork monument.
Yes.
Because it looks like a tuning fork.
Yeah.
So that's there. And then there's a road that runs between the parking lot and the area where this monument is. We spent a lot of time walking this road because for whatever reason, there was always a lot of activity back that road in different areas. Like, to the point, it was scary. Yeah. Like, I just got goosebumps just kind of thinking this.
Well, we had our own.
Yes.
Yeah, with Kelly, yeah.
I mean, this is the road. My brother's a big guy. Mm-hmm. Even when younger, even 20 years ago, he was big. Yeah. Tall, broad-shouldered, and he got scared by something and came running. He was ahead of us and came running back to the group, picked me up, and I had an instant of, oh, he's helping me along. Mm-hmm. No, he picked me up and threw me out of his way as he continued running down the road. So,
thanks, Aaron.
Well, I know his name is Aaron. And then this, for those of you who watch Ghost Adventures, I don't watch much, but I've seen Aaron on Ghost Adventures. And he's big guy, looks brave, but he's always a scaredy cat. It was like the first time I watched that show, I'm like, holy crap! It's my brother. It's not. The Aaron on Ghost Adventures is not my brother. They just have the same name. And they're scared.
And they're scared.
So he actually bent my glasses as like he so forcefully picked me up and threw me out of his way as he's running to the car. So this road there was always some activity. Mm-hmm. So we got there, and typically in the evening, Spangler Spring was our next to last stop. So we would go to Spangler Spring. Mm-hmm. The park would close at 10, which it now closes a half an hour after sunset, so you can't really ghost hunt much anymore. So it used to close at 10, and then when the park would be closing, we would leave and drive to not Spangler Spring, we're in Spangler Spring. Mm-hmm. We would drive to Sachs Covered Bridge, which was not park property. Mm-hmm. And you could be out there late at night, and we would stay out there sometimes till midnight and then go. The Lincoln Diner was open 24 hours. Yeah. So you have an idea of time of night. There are some thunderstorms. There's some lightning, what I always called heat lightning as a kid. Mm-hmm. It's just a storm off in the distance. Yep. Moving in. We decide we're going to walk back this road. And the storm's kind of moving in fast. The wind's picking up. You can hear the thunder rumbling now. And all of a sudden, as we're starting to walk down this road, there are 4 shadow figures that move across the road and then stand there in a line facing us, blocking the road. And these are the ones where I meant that you could see the collar. Like, you could tell they had clothing, but they were all black. There's no facial features. Mm-hmm. You could tell that they had some sort of clothing on, but they're all one solid black color. Mm-hmm. And they stood there. And we're all like, well, what do we do? And I'm like, well, we don't go down the road. Because, I'm not really gonna, like we were all like, well, we can't go. We stood there and we're kind of freaking out. And, it's so long ago, I don't even remember everything. And I think some of us tried taking photos. I don't think they showed up in the photos. Mm-hmm. I think there were some EVPs taken. I mean, you had a large group of people here, which isn't something I recommend doing with a large, I don't really recommend large investigation groups. Yeah. Because of that, like you have people talking and they're standing across the road. We eventually decide, you know what? The thunder's really loud at this point. Let's just head out.
How long do you think you stood there for?
I'm going to say 10 minutes. I'm going to guess and say 10 minutes. They were there we could see them the whole time.
It
may not have been 10 minutes. It may have been like 5 minutes, but it was intense, so it may have seemed longer than it actually was. Yeah. And like that includes watching them walk out. Like we watched them walk out of the trees. Yes. And go across the road. Yeah. When I'm done telling the story, I'm gonna have you there. Rosemary Ellen Guiley actually mentioned something about this. Okay. When you were reading it to me earlier, there's something in there about watchers in the trees. So anyway, we watched them come out of the tree line and walk across the road, and it was 4 of them, and they stood next to each other, preventing us from traveling down the road. So eventually we decide, you know what? Everybody's kind of freaked out. Let's just leave. Storm's coming in. Here.
She says, I'm going to read this paragraph. There may be no single explanation for shadow people. They are not likely to be ghosts. Dark, ghostly figures often found in haunted locations are more quote-unquote shadow figures than shadow people. However, as noted above, shadow people are found in haunted locations too, including wooded areas where they are known in folklore as watchers. Yeah.
We all thought Civil War ghost, but after I read that, I'm thinking, I don't know if that's what we saw. Is that what we saw, or did we see something else? I don't really know. I have no way to be able to tell.
Many people believe in spirits of place, watching over the land, protecting the land. So I think that's a definite possibility.
Well, when we left, we ended up skipping the bridge because the storm was coming in very fast.
Yeah.
And we went to the diner, and the storm hit not long after we got in the diner, and it was nuts. It was like crazy cloud to ground lightning, torrential rain. The consensus was that whatever it was trying to tell us, you need to go. This is not going to be safe, and you need to not stay here. You need to leave. Yeah. Because it was only about 5 minutes maybe to the area of town, right. and
they weren't moving, so you couldn't progress.
We could not progress where we were going.
Yeah,
we were kind of shook up in a way, and that's when we're like, let's just go. We're going to skip the bridge now because the storm's coming in quicker, and we won't be able to do anything. Let's just go to the diner. And then it was like all hell broke loose.
That's interesting.
And so that was what everybody had that same feeling that it wasn't evil. It was you guys aren't going to be safe here. You need to go.
Which is so cool, because then that fits into one of the stories that I had.
Right.
Because not all shadow people are evil.
No, I don't think they are. All right. Well, you tell your story. So that was my first story.
Well, this story, I'm going to actually tell my husband's story, because his is different from my story. He had the helpful type of shadow person. So let me see if I can condense this and make it quick. I tell long stories. So one Monday night, he comes home from a meeting, and he's kind of sitting on the couch, his hands on his knees and looking pensive. And I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? And I walk over and I say, hey, how was your meeting? He's like, I think I have something to tell you. And I thought, oh my, what's going on? So he proceeded to tell a story. Now, my husband is open, he's fascinated by this stuff, but he has never had an experience on his own that he just hasn't. He didn't grow up seeing shadow people. He never saw ghosts. He doesn't see dead people. He doesn't hear things, none of that. But he thinks it's an interesting topic. And I think because I'm into it, he's like, yeah, sure, let's get into that. He says, well, yesterday, he said, it started yesterday. He said, I was walking from the garage to the house. We have a detached garage. So he was walking from the garage to the house. And as he walked out of the garage, he said he saw what he thought was a person standing by an old van that he owns. It's an old plumbing van that we don't even use anymore. It's just parked on the side of the garage. He said it was real quick, but he looked over, and there was this person standing there. The person had a hat on. It was a total shadow person. I think he said that towards the feet, it sort of lost its shape. He said it just, like in his mind, like when he saw it, it seemed to just sort of dart quickly, like walk forward, but he didn't see it walk for a long period of time or anything. It was just there, and then it sort of moved forward and was gone. So he sort of brushed that off like, okay, that was weird. I'm not going to say anything to Ange because I don't even know what I just saw. So the next night he comes home after this meeting and goes down into the basement and pours himself a whiskey drink, not a vodka drink or a cider drink. Yeah. And he said he was standing at the bar sink and he just sort of, toasted to the air. And he had this very strong feeling that someone was behind him. So he turned his head to the left, looked over his shoulder, and there standing by our jukebox is this shadow figure. Same thing. I remember him saying to me, it reminded me of Charlie Chaplin. And then when he said I was grilling him, I was like, well, what kind of a hat? Was it a bowler hat? Was it this? Was it that? And did it have Charlie Chaplin clothes? And I think it was the impression of the outline of kind of the clothing that was just the era, the impression that he had. But it wasn't like a bowler hat. I was showing him different hats. It seems like it was more of a fedora type hat. But it was a shadowy figure that he saw. It was standing behind the couch, so he only saw it up to the tops of the legs. And then, again, it turned and walked off. This was very quick. It wasn't like this long 5-minute walk. It was just a very quick where it sort of walked off toward a utility room but disappeared. So he just saw the kind of the motion of the direction. And so that was when he decided he should probably tell me that something strange was going on. And I think he was, kind of like can you sage? So that's what I did. I pulled out my sage, I pulled out my drum, and I just sort of cleared everything and was like, I don't know what you are, but please just go. Like, not in my house. So the next day, I think it was our son that went downstairs and stepped in water. And so then he came up and got Eddie, who then went downstairs, and we have a plumbing company. So he went into the utility room, and the water heater had leaked. It hadn't burst yet, but it had overflowed the pan that, the water heater pan that it was sitting in. So crisis averted. We just finished our basement like a year and a half ago. He felt very strongly at the time that on this day, he felt that those two shadowy figures that he saw were directly related to this incident, and that figure was trying to tell him, hey, look, go check your utility room. Because it was odd that the first time he saw it, it was standing next to his plumbing van, his old plumbing van. And the second time, it walked sort of in the direction, quickly to that utility room. And both times when he saw this figure, he had no fear. He wasn't creeped out. Other than the fact that shadow people in your house and in your yard. And by the way, both times it was full daylight. When he came home from the meeting, when I say at night, I'm talking about summertime. So 7:30, it's still light out. And when he saw the shadow figure on Sunday, it was in the daytime. So these were not nighttime sightings or anything like that. But I do remember him saying on Monday, because I was grilling him. It had a hat? What do you mean it had a hat? What kind of a hat? So, and he's, I said, well, were you afraid? Did it feel evil? And he's like, no, it didn't bother me at all. It just was really weird, and I thought I should tell you.
He was very nonchalant when he shared it.
Yeah.
Kelly and I,
you
when
and
we were
Kelly.
here. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And he never felt creeped out about it, and still doesn't. It wasn't. And he's actually, if you ask him, he'll tell you he's grateful. We go back and forth about what it may have been, and I do genealogy work too, just like Jamie and Kelly do. So I do think that it's possible that it could have been one of the ancestors. Who knows? It could have been somebody passing through. But whatever it was, that shadowy presence, I do think was trying to say, hey, go check it out before it bursts.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a catastrophe. It would have, destroyed thousands of dollars worth of work that had literally just been done.
Yeah.
So at that time.
Yeah, I think it was more of a fedora hat because he said gangster. When we were talking about it, we were actually here doing a little investigating. He actually said...
Because nothing ever happens here.
I know. Ange says nothing ever happens here. That's complete bullshit.
I have a lot of stories.
Not that I'm not supposed to use that word. It's hooey.
It's hooey.
As my favorite word is. It's
nonsense.
a bunch of hooey. But that's not true because it's haunted here. We have many EVPs
in every room.
Nothing malicious.
No.
But we were talking about impressions. He's a gangster, which would not be a bowler hat. It would be a fedora.
Yes.
And
I think the Charlie Chaplin thing, because I have in my head a specific vision of what Charlie Chaplin is. I think that he was really more referring to the time frame.
Yeah.
Than he was referring to. I don't think it looked anything like Charlie Chaplin. I think he was just trying to say it wasn't somebody, it didn't feel like a person from 2020 or 21.
Right.
But I think this happened in 2020.
Yeah.
So.
And you have antiques in your basement, which would
Just a
go
few.
along with gangster time frame.
Yeah.
Which when he said gangster, and
There's
I'm like, hey,
machine.
where did the slot machine come from? And he's like, oh, that's an antique. And I'm like, your house is full of antiques. And you don't know where the haunting things are coming from. So I think it's the genealogy, possibly some attachment to some of the items. If they're attached to items, I don't think they would have wanted them to get flooded if your water heater busted or get ruined. Because you guys take care of them.
Yes,
they're being taken care of.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and as a matter of fact, we have a really cool Wurlitzer 1950s jukebox. That's
super awesome.
It's pretty darn cool.
It's awesome.
And that, that's sitting right there too, next to the slot machine, and sitting on an old piece of furniture that we just got from Frederick. So another antique. And
then I'm like, hey, what's that? Who owned that? That's an antique. I mean, it's like every piece of furniture.
Near the old player piano that's been in the family since the early
antique,
1900s. Yeah.
So I think that's another thing where they were trying to help out. They were ghost thing, but not evil in any way, shape, or form.
And I might have saged a little bit over the top. But, my experience with shadow people was quite different than those
Yeah,
stories
which I
there,
think we're
so.
going to get into. I had a couple other stories, but I think I'm skipping to the more creepy. Because we do want to talk about the other phenomena that's associated with shadow people.
Phenomenon.
Yeah. The other couple instances I had.
You have the corner of the eye ones too, right?
I have the corner of the eye one.
Yes, because those are pretty cool.
Which leads into the other, into your scarier story and then
Yes.
the other story. So it looks like it was October of 2010. I have the exact date because I printed it off of a blog post.
That's awesome.
Oh no, this is something different. That's
was
something
that your
different.
drawing?
Mm-hmm.
That's creepy.
That's my drawing.
Oh, that's super.
Yep, that's one of them.
Creepy.
So
that could fall into the UFO thing too.
Well, that's what I just realized sitting here tonight, which scares the absolute shit out of me. Like, I'm using that word. I don't really care.
I would say that's a real possibility.
Right. So, a long time ago, it wasn't 2010. I was mistaken. That was a different story that I'm skipping. I'll save it for another episode. Don't cry, anybody. You'll hear it eventually.
I might cry.
So, I lived in my parents' house. I was divorced. I had my daughters long before my son came around. I was actually babysitting for one of my sister's friends, high school. My sister was in high school. One of her friends had a baby while she was in high school, and I would babysit when I was home from work or whatever, for like in between. Like, so she could go to her job, and then, her mother-in-law would come and pick up the baby type of thing.
Yeah.
When you're in my parents' house, in the back of the house, they have a family room or a den. Mm-hmm. And that's where everybody watches TV. That's where the TV is. And if you're standing in front of the TV, looking at the TV, the doorway, the opening is to your left. And you can look through the doorway all the way down. You can see there's a breakfast nook next to the family room. Mm-hmm. The kitchen is next to the breakfast nook. The dining room is next to the kitchen. Okay. And you can look down and see all the way down through all of it. Like, it's not a covered hallway. It's like the rooms are not an open floor plan, but you can see through the entryway into the den all the way down to the end of the house. Mm-hmm. Clearly.
Yeah. You know who's coming.
Yes. And then where the dining room is at the end, there's a doorway into the formal living room. The computer, we refer to it as the computer room. Yeah. Which is important. So there's that doorway into the room on the front of the house. Okay. So I'm standing in front of the television. This is the very first incident. The baby I'm watching is in her car seat carrier, and she's a little fussy. I think she had an ear infection. And she's there at my feet, and I'm, talking to her and trying to get something on TV, just, get myself settled. And as I'm standing there, I catch out of the corner of my eye somebody at the end of the house, like towards the dining room. I was scared because I was the only one home. Nobody is home at this point. My parents are at work. My brother and sister are not home from school or wherever. And I'm by myself with this infant. And I think there's somebody in the house. Like, that was my initial thought. There's somebody staring at me from around the corner. That I could tell because I was kind of trying to look and like side eye it, and look without moving my head because I was afraid because I didn't really want to look, but I also didn't want to draw attention to the fact that I had noticed, because I thought if this is somebody in the house, there is a French door, like right there that I can grab the baby and we can book it out of the house and start screaming. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Because I'm worst case scenario. There is a serial killer in the house and I need to run and scream or they're going to kill me. Yep. Like, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So I'm trying to look out of my peripheral vision to get a better idea. So I can see something dark peeking around the corner. Like, they were standing in the front room, in the computer room, peeking around the corner, like leaning in, so their heads leaning into the dining room and staring at me from that length of the house. Yeah, I have the picture that I drew.
How old again? You were high school.
No, I'm 7 years older than my sister. Oh, so right. I'm an adult. I have Bridget.
That's right. Okay, sorry about
Bridget, I don't know, 3 or 4. So I would have been
brain fart.
23. I'm guessing. College. Okay. I was at Carroll. Yeah. Okay. That's how we met.
Yes, in college.
So anyway, like I said, that's the picture of it. And I can remember, I don't know if you can notice in my pictures, the fingers were long. Yeah. Okay. So I whipped all
between the head and the hands. That's the first thing that I thought was.
So I whipped around and I actually caught a good look at it because it didn't, it was like I tricked it. It didn't realize, because I thought it was a serial killer.
Yes.
It didn't realize that I had actually been looking at it as much as I could from the corner of my eye before I whipped my head around.
Yeah.
So I got a pretty good look and it darted back into the living room. So, or the computer room, whichever.
You may know more about aliens than you think.
Which may be why I'm so terrified.
It could be.
That's all I'm saying. But I'm not thinking, like, I'm not even accepting that. I'm not even accepting that right now.
It isn't aliens.
It's not aliens. It's anything but. It was a demon. Like, I'll accept the demon before I accept the aliens. And honestly, I think that my fear and absolute denial is seated far deeper than I really realize, and I don't really want to realize it. I really don't.
But I guess we won't do a podcast about John Mack and all his research.
Yeah, well, not right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that happened. So I go and search. I get the baby out of the carrier. I'm carrying the baby, and I'm like, I need to look. Now I know it's not an actual person, but now I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then I thought, did my siblings come home and they're screwing around? Because that would be totally right up my brother's alley. You know, he was ghost hunting with me at that point. So I go down there and I'm looking. There's nobody in the downstairs. There's no cars in the driveway. The door is still locked. There's no way somebody could have come in the door, unlocked it without me hearing it.
Right.
Because when you walk into the breakfast nook, the front door you can see from the breakfast nook. It's right there. You would hear it. Yeah. It's loud. That was one day. So a little bit later, I'm in the computer room. At the computer, and the computer desk, this is the other photo for you. Okay, the computer desk, it sits against, it's right next to the opening into the dining room. Yeah. So you're kind of facing the dining room. So your back is to the front of the house. You're looking towards the back of the house. So this is the same doorway. Whatever it was in next to the computer desk, looking down at me. So now I'm at the desk and I'm typing. I'm probably on AOL. I'm probably chatting. AOL. Quite honestly,
she was probably on dial-up.
I am on a dial-up modem on a dirt road and dialing up AOL. And I can even tell you who I was most likely talking to at this time as well. He went by C. Griff. So I know that's who I was probably chatting with. And so I'm sitting at the computer desk and I feel like I'm being watched. I can see, like, I'm kind of looking at the screen, so the doorway would be just off to my left, and I can tell without moving that there is something there watching me. It's some dark figure watching me. So again, it's like, I was waiting, I'm ready now, you know, like, so I did the same thing I did before, try to see it without moving, without being like, holy crap, what's that? So I'm watching, and finally I go to look at it, and it is somebody, I can see like shoulders up, leaning in to watch me at the computer. No. And of course, when I move to look.
That's unnerving.
Extremely.
To say the least. That
extremely.
I get it.
And it moved back. So these were the two main things that happened to me in my parents' house. But I also want to throw in here, and my dad's just going to love this. I found out after the fact, my dad has seen the exact same thing. At the same time, my dad was also seeing these shadow figures out of the corner of his eye, watching him, darting back when he would move to look. And he had told my mom, but he never said anything. My dad believes. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to say that. I don't think he ever listens to these podcasts. And because I've said this, he's not going to listen. But whatever, it's an extra download. So he believes, but he doesn't want to believe. He will tell a ghost story about something that happened to him in this family's house, the Shipleys. Yeah. He and his dad were there cleaning it out. It was a family friend. And he'll tell you the stories that happened to them, the experiences that they had. Then I'll start talking about ghost hunting, and he will laugh at me. He will make fun of me. He will make jokes about it, right? Right. Oh yeah, you know, you got a word flying, right? You know, whatever. And then weeks later, he'll be like, look at this picture. Look at this picture. I got an orb in this picture. You know, it's like, you just laughed at me 2 weeks ago. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with my dad. Yes. So
I want to believe. I call it the I want to believe syndrome.
Well, it's like he doesn't even want to believe. It's like he believes. He believes, but he had his own experiences. Yeah. Makes fun of me.
Yes.
And then turns around and I'll be like, hey, look at this photo I got. You know, whatever. But he is actually also seeing these figures in the house. Yeah. I don't know if he still does. My mom, mentions how he saw things too, but he was seeing the same things, which kind of freaks me out. You know, it was validation that it's not just me, but that just made it worse, not better. That's pretty much it with that sort of thing. I do have, I'll tell you the story I was going to skip. This one is the October 2010.
Okay.
I wrote down. I actually mentioned this trip in the story about Ethan and him seeing dead people because October 2010 is the date that we went to the battlefield with my daughter and her friends when my daughter decided it was now cool because her friends thought it was cool to ghost hunt. Yes, I mentioned this.
Okay, yeah.
And Ethan's thing. So there was something else that happened on the battlefield other than this, what happened with Ethan. Mm-hmm. We were at Culp's Hill, which is past Spangler Spring. You go through Spangler Spring to get to Culp's Hill.
Yeah.
We're at there's an observation tower there. I think I've told you this story.
I know this story, yes.
So there's an observation tower there.
You told me this story when we were on Culp's Hill.
Yeah, we were there. Let me tell you about this scary story that happened right here.
In the dark,
in these
by
very
ourselves.
woods.
Yep.
Ooh. Like, let me scare the crap out of you. And myself, might I add. So we're up there, and there's the tower, and then park. It's like a loop. Tower's in the middle of the loop, and the park. There's parking around the loop. So there's nobody there. We're the only car there. It's not an easy place to walk to either.
No,
so that's important to know.
It's a steep hill,
right? And it's dark out.
Yeah.
It's this was one of the last. This was the last place we went. So we get out of the car and we go over. There's some cannons around the tower. We're over there. We're taking EVP. One of the girls had a camera. She's taking photos. We're sitting on the steps of the tower platform. So the tower's on a concrete platform. We're basically sitting on the concrete platform. We're not on the tower.
Right.
But we're on the platform the tower is on.
And the tower is at the top of the hill.
It's at the very top of the hill.
Yes. So, yeah.
So we're at the top of the tower. And while we're sitting there, we hear footsteps on the tower. Okay. Now this freaks me out, not because I'm thinking ghost. This freaks me out because I'm a lone adult female, and I am here with a little kid. So Ethan, 2010, Ethan would have been 4. So that makes my daughter like 15, 16. And her friend's the same age. So I've got 3 teenage girls, attractive teenage girls, a 4-year-old boy, and I'm the only one there responsible for these children, 2 of which aren't mine, 2 of which are. And I think there is somebody who's been up in the tower, unknown to us.
Yep. The living are always scarier.
The living are far scarier than the dead. So I am terrified because I'm like, I've got these kids. The van is not super far away, but how am I going to get them over there and in the van? Unlock, how am I going to get all this done?
Get everybody in. Yeah.
So that was my first thought. So we hear somebody coming down the steps. So then it stops. So I climb up 2 of the steps of the tower and I'm listening. And I've got the kids on high alert. I've got Bridge, she knows, we've been ghost hunting before. I'm listening. Everybody's quiet because the tower makes noise. Like you can't walk on that tower without noise.
Because it's a metal tower and it's all open.
It's all open. You cannot move on it without noise. So I'm like, we're going to be super quiet and listen. And somebody is going to give themselves away. I don't hear anything. There's no other noise. The girls are all feeling uncomfortable. I mean, and that's probably partly because of me, because I was scared. I was like, God, nothing can happen to any of these children. Some of them aren't even mine. And the one, I don't want anything to happen to mine either, but you don't want to be responsible for 4 lives. And of course, like I said, I'm always worst case scenario, serial killer at the top of it. But living people are very, very scary. Yeah. We decide we're done for the night. We're going to we're going to leave. So we're starting to get ready to head over to the parked vehicle. We've left the tower and there's a grassy area before you get to the curb to step down to cross the road to get to the parking area. And it's not a very large area. It sounds like it might be really wide. It's not.
It's not, yeah.
So we're walking across the grassy area by the cannons and I feel like we're being watched. So I turn around, I look up at the tower. There's a shadow figure standing on the upper platform of the tower. I can see them.
Yeah.
So I don't say anything at this point. because I'm pretty sure it's not a person.
Yeah.
Like I'm fairly certain it's not a human.
Yeah.
But it did not make me feel comfortable.
Right.
Like I was not, I had an, I don't want to say it was like evil dreading. I was not, it was like I was not wanted there and we needed to go. It was bad. It was a bad feeling. We keep walking to the van and I turn and look because I'm trying to keep track of what's going on. And the figure had moved closer. Like it has come down the tower.
Yeah.
Right? It's down the tower. It's actually off the tower, like off the concrete platform on the grassy part. We are at the van. So I have a, the unlock button.
Yeah.
I unlock the van doors. Everybody go, you can hear it unlock. Everybody goes to open the door. The doors are locked again.
Oh, no.
Okay. It took me 3 tries to unlock the doors. Bridget actually thought I was joking
Yeah.
and was getting angry. And it
Yeah.
was like, I am scared shitless. And
Yes.
pardon my French,
Yeah.
but I am terrified. And the
Right.
last thing I'm going to do is screw around with the door locks.
Yeah.
On a normal
Because
sunny
right now
day,
she still is unaware of the
I
shadow
have
figure
not
that
told.
has moved
I have
down.
not
Right.
told them because
And
I
it's
don't.
a good thing.
I
She
don't
would have had
need-
screaming girls.
I don't need 3 hysterical
No.
teenagers. I don't.
or a hysterical 4-year-old.
I don't know if he would have picked up on it.
He would have picked up on the girls.
He would have picked up on them and he would have
Yeah.
been scared, but he
Yeah.
wouldn't have been like, "Blah,"
Yeah.
yeah. So we get in the car, we're able to get in the car. And like in the meantime, as I'm trying to unlock the door, I can see it. It's now halfway across the road, right? Coming towards us.
Yeah.
And it is a figure, black as black.
That would scare the
Humanoid, no features. Like I have goosebumps.
That's terrifying. It really is.
Yes.
The fact that it's moving towards you,
Yes.
that would have.
Silently.
I can't even say what I would have done.
No, I don't. And so we get in the
It
van.
includes bad words.
I left before anybody was like, that is we left.
Yeah,
We left,
yeah.
got out of there.
So then you
Then
were finally able to get the door open.
I got
after
the doors
third try.
open. We got them open. We got in the van. I immediately
Took
started
off
the
before
car.
the doors closed.
I mean, they were closing the
Yeah,
doors
yeah.
as we were leaving.
Mhm.
And I always kind of jokingly say, nothing's allowed to come home with us. You got to stay here.
Yes.
We'll come back and visit you because I actually had an issue with something coming
I
home.
remember that.
I was like adamant, this van is a sacred space because I had a minivan. This
Yeah.
van is a sacred space. You are not allowed in my van. You are not welcome in the van. You cannot follow my van. I think I was saying prayers under my breath
Yeah.
because I was still trying not to freak the girls out.
Right.
So we left and went back to the house because the girls spent the night.
Yeah.
Turns out later, Bridget found out later in school, one of the girls had snapped a picture while we were walking across the street. When we first started, when I said I felt like somebody was watching us,
Yeah.
they had a picture of the form. It looked like the form, and I never saw never saw.
Wow.
Bridget said she saw it, and
Yeah.
it was really
Was
creepy.
that back in the days of 35 millimeter? Or
No, I
that
think
was
she
a
might have had a
at the time?
digital.
Okay.
But I never
Yeah,
got a copy of the
2010
photos.
digital.
But
Okay.
Anyway, so that was
Dang.
the other super.
That's terrifying.
Oh, it was terrifying.
And that is terrifying.
It's like I don't even want to drive home. It's dark out.
So my periphery story is not scary, really, compared to that, thankfully, because I don't know how I would even process that, to be honest with you. But it did bring back some of your story about your little alien shadow person or non-alien shadow person.
It's not alien.
Non-alien. Made me think of when we lived in our old house in Ellicott City. I had, it was just the two of us. We didn't have kids at the time. And I had a computer room an office, and my back would face the doorway, and I would face the window because I like looking out the window and all of that. And oh geez, that was a long time ago. It was back in the day of Baldur's Gate 2. I am really gonna date myself, and I loved this game, and I played it obsessively, many hours, into the wee hours of the night, and I would get really uncomfortable. I could just feel, it felt like somebody was standing there looking at me. I would turn, I would never see anything. And so fast forward when we, after we had Liam and that became a bedroom and ended up moving my office downstairs, I always made sure after that my desk always faced if you look into my office now, the desk faces the door. I won't have my desk not facing the door anymore because of that creepy feeling. It was just, I don't know. It was weird. I used to have weird stuff in that house. So anyway, fast forward to here. My daughter, Catriona, she is 14, and I tend to be a night owl. And so I was sitting in our, quote unquote, formal living room. When you walk in our front door, there's a formal living room to the right, which is just a TV room. And then to the left is a staircase that sort of goes up and then kind of doesn't curve around. I don't know. It what do you
Turns.
call it? It turns. Yeah. I am sitting on a little love seat, kind of looking towards the TV, and she's sitting in a chair to my right, and so she would be facing the staircase, and we're talking. It's like 11:30 at night. She would like to talk in the evenings. We'll have conversations, and we're just talking, and I could kind of see her. She would look up at the staircase every once in a while. I didn't think too much of it because, I mean, it's just there. She's like, that's the way she's facing. And out of the corner of my eye, I felt like I caught movement over there. And I was thinking, we have 3 cats. And I just sort of turned and I looked, wondering what it was. And then she says, you see it. You see it too, don't you? And I said, what? And she said, I keep seeing something on the staircase. Did you see it too? And I was kind of caught off guard because I do explain everything away. I explain everything away. I've been telling them for a long time, nothing ever happens here. I don't know why Kat and now my husband see things or experience things because nothing happens here. I said, well, yeah, I mean, I did. I thought I saw some movement out of the corner of my eye, but it's probably just, I don't know, a car headlight going by or whatever. I explained it away. So there was kind of that little story. A fast forward to, this is several months ago. I think, did I go away with you that weekend? I think I did. I think this was when we were in Virginia, you and Kelly and I. Mm-hmm. And so, oh no, this was another one because it was Kat and I. Kat and I had gone. That's what it was. Kat and I had gone to Westernport this particular weekend. Oh, that's when
you were out.
This was Western when we were out in Western Maryland to visit family out there. So we were away. I come home and Eddie says to me, I had the weirdest feeling. He's like, I had the weirdest, I don't know if it was a dream or I don't know what it was. He said I was on the couch in the TV room. And he said, and I was kind of laying on the couch and I looked up and he said it looked like one of the cats was walking down the steps and kind of came around the corner. And he said, but it was like it was standing on its hind legs, like one of those monkeys. And I was like, what? Like the organ grinder monkey? He's like, that movie with Harrison Ford? I said, well, yeah, I know what you're talking. You're talking about the little fez hat and little. He said that's what it reminded me of. He said, but not that that's what he saw, but it was something that was just short, just sort of walking around. And he said he thinks his mind tried to fill in the blanks, and it was just, but it was such a strange experience. And he's like, what the hell was that? And it wasn't the cats; they weren't there. And I think he was just puzzled and didn't even know what to think at that point. Those are some of the little out of the corner of the eye stories. Those are kind of
creepy.
Fun. They're creepy,
fun, but they're
unnerving.
Creepy.
And I will say, even though I do explain everything away, I have on many occasions, because that does tend to be where we'll watch TV at night and where I'll sit late at night. Now I go into the basement now that the basement's finished. But for the first, 6 years of living here, that's where I would sit at night and read or watch television. And I often would get little glimpses out of the corner of my eye, but I would always chalk it up to, well, it must be the moonlight or car headlight. And I live in a rural area, so it's not like I have tons of traffic. But yeah, we have cars and stuff that go by. But now I'm kind of thinking, maybe I should.
Now she's kind of thinking, we got 20 recordings here, EVPs, and now she's like, well, you know what? There might be something here.
I saw a shadow person twice. Maybe I'll pay attention.
Maybe.
And Kat gets so mad at, you don't believe anything.
And Kelly and I laugh at her because we're like, yeah, whatever, Angelina.
Right in front of your face and you don't believe in it. Like,
okay, well, here's an EVP. No. It's like saying I'm a ghost living in your house, and Angie's like, I don't think it's really haunted.
You're probably picking up radio waves from Towson. That's not anywhere near me, but that's okay. So yeah, that's kind of those are the fun shadow people stories.
So that pretty much does it for the sort of benign. I mean, not all of them were benign because some of them were terrifying.
Creepy, yeah.
But that does it for what we're going to talk about today. We had considered bringing up another phenomena that is closely linked with shadow people, and it's referred to as the Hat Man. We thought we might be able to fit it in, but really it's just
because we talk a lot.
We talk a lot, and we
have a lot of stories.
We have too many creepy stories to share, which is good for a paranormal podcast.
Yeah.
But I don't want to rush.
And those are just some of them.
I know, that's just some. We didn't even
that's
touch
the
upon
thing.
all of them.
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't want to rush it. I don't want to
Right.
not give it its due, so to
Mhm.
speak. So I already did have it scheduled to record at a later date for an episode. Actually, we usually try to do like a cryptid, a ghost thing, alien thing, creepy story thing, and then like a true crime thing. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what it's not always exact, but that's how we follow it. So this is our haunted thing, which was shadow people. So the
Yeah.
next haunted thing is supposed to be the Hat Man.
Yeah.
You all can, if you want, you can look it up, but I'd wait. We're going to tell you all about it.
And I have a feeling that a lot of people already have their own stories.
Yes.
Of their own.
I never realized it was a thing.
Yeah.
When I had my experience, because I experienced it, and I'm not going to go into detail,
Right.
but I didn't realize it was an actual phenomena that many, many people experience, and they experience the same type of thing.
Yeah. And there's another iteration of it too.
Yes.
Because there's also.
And that's something that
that's what I experienced. Same feeling, different
hat.
Different hat.
Yeah.
Different hat.
So that's a little thing, to just spark your interest for that.
And if anybody listening has their own experiences of shadow people in any form, please post them, because I am fascinated. I, for the longest time, thought I was the only person in the world that had these crazy, messed up experiences, until I was saying to Jamie that I don't even know, it might have been her and Kelly. They may have been the first people that I even talked to about it, because I do remember talking and hearing about this Hat Man and these shadow people, and I was shocked that it was a thing. I had no idea. I had no idea it was a thing, and they were really the only paranormal people that I knew, because it was an interest of mine. But I was on an island of one.
We are the only paranormal people. No, I'm just
The
kidding.
only ones
we
I
are
like.
the
No, I'm kidding.
only ones. No.
I like a lot of paranormal people, but at that time,
yes,
at that particular time, I just didn't have a lot of those people in my life. So luckily, yay, college, we met each other and hooked up. And this was how I was able to finally share some of the things that I had experienced and never told anybody about, because they would have thought that I was crazy and I would have been sent to the insane asylum.
As Angelina said, if you have a shadow person, or if you know what we're talking about with Hat Man, send us an email, send us a message on any one of our social media platforms.
And since it's a two-parter, if you have some suggestions of shadow people we haven't covered, we can throw that in.
We'll
with the
fill
Hat
that
Man
in with
next
Hat
time,
Man,
so.
because we'll probably talk about like malevolent type stories too. Then
it'll be a little creepier next time.
It'll be creepy. So, I mean, it was a little creepy this time.
Yeah,
but
it'll be way creepy.
Yeah, definitely send us, the information, and, we'll include that in the episode.
Yep.
And that'll be a few episodes from now, but it'll be the next kind of like haunted sort of spooky
but
episode.
it'll be fun. Don't miss it.
Yes. Oh, well, definitely don't. So anyway, as always, you can find us on your favorite podcast platform. Apple, Spotify, we're on all the major ones and the not major ones. So you can pretty much find us anywhere. You can also find us at lurkpodcast.com. We have all the episodes are there. We also have all the links to social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And I post photos on anything relevant to an episode that has just been released. Anything relevant to anything ridiculous that I think is funny and paranormal, I post on there. Any events we may be doing, I post that information. The YouTube channel is basically the episodes with any photos related to it, kind of playing as a slideshow. I'm not ready to do any live stuff yet because I need to lose like 30 pounds.
No, then we'd have to actually wear real clothes too. And
yes, this is true.
Instead of like...
I mean, I have a
my
Scooby-Doo
gardening,
shirt. I have a Scooby-Doo shirt, so that counts. So definitely like or follow, subscribe to any one of those or all of them. I suggest all of them, because sometimes I might post something on one I don't post on another.
Yeah. And there's a separate page for merch too now.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes. And this is her second time. She already knows. We do have merchandise. We have shirts. We have tank tops. We have kids' clothes, kids' shirts.
Bumper stickers.
Yes, we have stickers, and you can find that in the show notes for each of the under each of the episodes, but it's also has its own domain name, which is Lurk Podcast Merch, merch.com. And you can go there and that'll take you to our merch store. I hate saying merch.
Merch.
I
It's
know.
cool stuff, though.
It
Kat
is.
loves merch. All of her friends love merch.
I know, but
We need to get them to buy our merch.
they do need to buy merch so I can pay for this podcast.
Kat,
Make
we
my
need a new
husband
sweatshirt.
happy. So anyway, I think that's going to do it. So as always,
Keep lurking.